Hey, what's up guys? We're back over here at Chris's house. I just want to kind of go over some of the progress that's been made and break down a few of the costs that's already been put in and what's planned, so we can kind of overanalyze those numbers and where he's currently sitting at, profit-wise, time-wise, and everything. So one thing that's really worth noting is that a lot of these sellers, when they sell their properties, especially for a wholetail, it's just something that really needs to be cleaned up. A lot of that often is the exterior. They let the bushes overgrow, they let the trees overgrow. It just makes the property look, overall dilapidated. You can kind of see that from the first video. So one of the first things that Chris came and did prior to listing is he fixed the exterior curb appeal, just trimmed all those bushes down, added some mulch. It's gonna make the pictures look a lot better. It's just gonna give, overall much better curb appeal. So if you take a look here, he's already cut down all the bushes, trimmed back the trees, done the landscaping, added mulch right here. Really good landscaper, did all this for a couple $100. So we'll add that in the budget, or we'll add that in the breakdown. And then obviously the big cost that's already been completed came in the day after closing and finished that, right? They were already on standby. So that is the foundation. You'll kind of see here the dirt where they did it, and then we'll walk out the back. Now, one thing with foundation, it's something that you're always going to need to do. It's important if, it opens you up to more of the retail buyers. If it's a retail buyer and they feel something structurally off, it's always going to cause a problem. It's also going to mean that they can't get FHA or VA. They're not going to allow the loan to go through if it's more than a couple inches off. I think it's maybe an inch or an inch and a half that's permissible. So yeah, now the foundation's been fixed. One thing that's really good is on this foundation was all exterior piers. Now, if you have to do interior piers, it's gonna damage your flooring. It's gonna cause a lot of extra work. So if they can do exterior piers, it definitely helps with the cost. So let's walk in here. We'll talk about some of the other stuff that's being done. Actually, let me just take a note here. This is a really unique way, and funny, I actually know this wholesaler. So if you look at this note here, somebody came by and put this on the door. It says, "We're interested in buying this house with cash," right? It's a great way to find leads. As you're driving in the neighborhood, you have a little postcard or sticky note, and you can slap it on a house that obviously needs some work. Now, this one was really overgrown, so it's easy to see that the property's not being taken care of. So often when you have a property not being taken care of, it's much easier to get it for the numbers that work. So we're in the kitchen. Hasn't started yet. I think within the next day or two, it's going to replace all this cabinetry with granite. In here and also in the bathroom. Total cost of that, I believe, is $4,400. And then obviously the foundation was $6,500. Going to do paint and really going to try to keep these floors. The floors are actually in decent condition. The ones in the back room, they definitely need to be cleaned up. And I think if you get in there and you clean them up and you can't have them restored, properly, then you could always, come in here and pretty cheaply put carpet over the top of these, or pull it up and put carpet. It's going to be a low cost. So, going to change the cabinetry in here to quartz to match the kitchen. Let's go to the backyard. And again, remember, this one is a wholetail, so it's not a full rehab, making it livable condition. Not going to overspend, but it's also going to be priced accordingly, right? This property, I believe he's going to list for around $235, but fully rehab comps in this area are selling fast at $285. But it means you don't have to come in here and spend, 30, 40, 50,000 bucks. Another thing back here you'll see is the fence lines. You're going to come in and prop that up, but already on the backyard too, done a lot of the landscaping. It's not as overgrown. You can see here where they did the foundation on the exterior, right on the dirt. And one good thing to look out for is if your foundation contractor is doing a good job and they have to go into the concrete to get to the exterior piers like here, they're going to fill that back in. You can see this spot here where they obviously went under, put piers, and then they've refilled that back in with concrete. So now when we walk this property, it's level. So a borrower is not going to feel that foundation. Now that door needs to be replaced. There's a couple other sheetrock patchings and little things that need to be done, prior to enlisting it. But yeah, it definitely feels level now. Obviously looking out for any, residual cracks that moving the house or lifting the house might have caused. A lot of times you're going to see it in the door jambs or the walls or any, anywhere where they join. You're going to see some cracking. Now you definitely want to go ahead and fix that because it indicates some structural issues. But when you're doing a seller's disclosure, you're disclosing to them anyway that you did foundation work. Here in Houston, almost every house has some kind of foundation problem. If not now, at some point. Really, we're built on a swamp, so our ground is gonna at some point shift. So what you can do with your foundation company is get a warranty on that foundation. So if they ask about anything or spot anything, you've already have it in the seller's disclosure. You've already also got a lifetime warranty on the work that's been completed. So if it resettles or there's any issues, they can always come back out and adjust it for you. So I think this was the biggest point here. Yeah, it definitely feels level. Let's walk into this bedroom. I believe we could really feel it over here too. Yeah, it also feels level. Sometimes you have to readjust the doors. And yet you'll see up here, you kind of see like a hairline crack. I don't know if it comes across on video, but you'll see a little crack from the corner of that door jamb. So you're going to want to fix that. Yeah, so repainting, probably fixing these doors. You might have to replace a couple of those doors. Overall, pretty clean. Definitely for the price that it's going to be listed at. It's going to be the cheapest thing on the market. Also, they did leave a few items. It's been over a week now, I believe. Got the foundation done the next day. They've left some items in here. You can always throw these, Facebook Marketplace. I wouldn't try to get any money for these probably. They need some refurbishment. See if anyone picks them up so you can save yourself the trash haulage cost or dumpster. This thing looks pretty good, real heavy. Someone would probably pay money for this, at least enough money to cover your cleaning cost once it's all said and done. But yeah, everything's progressing well. I think they're coming in to do the cabinets, the countertops in the next day or two. Also with the backsplash, they're going to do that at the same time. Probably need a new new dishwasher, stovetop. It's good that they left that fridge. You can just clean that up. Fridge is decent enough. We can check the garage. Did they get everything out? It's hard to tell. It's pretty dark. One or two things in there. Needs to check on the lights. That's one thing that whenever I'm flipping a house or doing a wholetail, I always forget to turn the power on or exchange the power until the contractor's there and he reminds you. So there's a bunch of comparison sites you can go into. Here in Texas, we have one, I think it's called Power to Choose. You just go in there and shop rates. Or if you're doing a ton of houses, you can get an account with one of these providers, and then you can just call them up and add it to your account. So that's always helpful too. But water, power, you don't always need to get the gas switched on straight away if they shut it off. But if you're keeping, gas stove and gas appliances, then your water heater's gas, then you're going to want to head and go over and get that done too. So, all right, guys, now we're going to break down the cost of what he's put in so far and kind of the estimated total cost, and then, go over what he could probably list it at and sell it at, and yeah, go from there. Oh, another little point I want to make is probably doesn't come across on here and on the house, but even stuff as simple as power washing. Power wash the house, power wash your walkways and your driveways, get a chemical wash on the roof if it needs it. that thing just makes it pop, right, in the curb appeal. And the most important thing on any listing, especially in the market that we're in right now, is having good imagery when your realtor or whoever listed on the MLS. Because most importantly, what you want is just having bodies through the door, viewings and showings consistently. If you're having consistent viewings and showings, the property is going to get sold, right? Now, you might have to go back and make some changes according to the buyer's request. Some little things that they notice might get fixed once they have their home inspection. But it's not a problem. It's better to get it, get interest in it, get buyers in there. Once that home inspection comes in, send your handyman back around, knock all those items they're requesting out, and your house is going to have much lower days on market. So it's all about, getting people in through the door. All right, guys, let's break the deal down and go from there. All right, guys, so we're just going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the cost associated with Chris's wholetail deal. Start trying to build a picture of how much money he's intending to make. So really, when I'm evaluating a flip deal, right, or a wholetail deal, or anything you're closing, you're going to resell, I'm breaking it down into three costs, right? It's your closing cost, so when you're buying the property. It's your holding cost, so the amount of time that you own it, and then what it's going to cost you to sell that property, right? So Chris's property was $165,000, okay? And then he escrowed the foundation cost. It's a little bit of a unique way to do it, which was $6,500. So his total loan was, let's calculate this, 165 plus 6,500. His total loan was 171,500. So this is going to go within your closing, right? Because eventually you're going to have to pay that loan off when you sell it or you refinance it. So 171,500. Now, what are some other costs you think you're going to have on your closing portion of it? Well, you're going to have points, right? If you're doing a loan. So he had 2 points, right? We'll calculate that in a sec. You've got title costs. You've got insurance. And then you've got an appraisal. And you've got a survey. Excuse me. And you might have some other cost. You might have tax prorations, right? So the way the tax works is you're just going to pay for the period that you own the property. So it depends really what time of year you close it. But if, let's say, the seller had already paid for all of 2024, well, what you're going to be doing is you're going to give them a rebate from the day that you're closing up until the end of that year, right? Same thing that happens when you sell it. If you've paid for the full year, well, you're going to recoup that taxes back from the day that you own it. And then whoever's purchasing that property is going to be essentially paying for the remainder of the year. So if you ever kind of get confused with taxes when you're closing it on the closing statement, that's basically how it works. So we're not going to put that in closing costs. It's really in holding. We'll just calculate roughly a few months from there. And then selling. So one part on selling is, a big cost a lot of people don't realize is the agent fees. So really the typical way that it would always happen was you'd pay 3% to the selling agent, right, your agent, and then 3% to the buyer's agent, totaling 6%. Well, Chris is an agent, right? So we can actually remove this 3% here, and you can kind of adjust accordingly with yours. And again, we're putting a flip profit calculator on the website, which is going to allow you to adjust these. And anytime you're evaluating a deal, you can plug all these numbers and change them depending on how you're structured. Now, if you have an agent that lists at 1%, great. If you've got your license, you don't have to pay that percentage. Or if you can find a flat fee realtor, maybe they'll do it for $2,000. It's going to be substantial, right? So his target loan is, his target sales price is $235,000. So what's $235,000 times 3%? Right, that's $7,000 he's saving because of the fact that he has a license. So you can see if you're doing 2, 3, 4 flips a year, that's one of the benefits of having a license or having somebody on your team that can list it for cheaper, right? He's looking at paying $14,000 potentially if he doesn't have that. So we're going to put that in selling cost here. We're going to put the 3% buyers, right? So 7050, and that's not a, it's not a legal fee that it's a set fee, right? That is negotiable. In a hot market or a market with low days on market, you could advertise less for the buyer's agent. You might put 2%, you might put 1.5%. It really is kind of market dependent. Now, the market is a little bit slower right now. Obviously, during that hot period when interest rates were really low after COVID, buyer's agents were happy with 1%, 1.5% because inventory was moving so fast and it was hard to get hold of. But if you have a property that's might take a little bit longer, well, of course, you're going to offer that 3%. So he could potentially, because he's listing it a little bit lower, as a wholetail deal, it's going to be one of the cheaper ones to sell. He could potentially list that for 2% and save a couple $1,000. So we would have to get his feedback on that. So one thing when you're selling a property, generally it's expected for the seller to pay the title policy, right? But what kind of sucks in investing is when you're going in there saying, I will pay all the cost, a lot of the first title policy on your first closing falls on you, right? And then when you sell it, that title policy again falls on you. So let's just say the title policy on this property is $1,500, right? And then we've also got, let's say, $350 escrow fee. Let's also say we've got $500 in miscellaneous closing fees. Everyone always gets very nervous about the closing costs because they really don't understand all that goes into them. Typical closing costs are your title insurance or your title policy fee. You got your escrow fee. You've got recording fees for the title company to record it with the county. You might have an attorney fee to create the deed. So we're just putting in the 500 miscellaneous here, okay? Now holding costs. What are those? You have the debt service. So that's your monthly interest payments. Generally on a hard money loan or an investment loan, it's going to be an interest-only loan. You're not worried about it being amortized, so it's pretty easy to calculate it. Again, you can use our cash to close calculator on the website for any deal that you're evaluating. It'll show you how much interest you're paying depending on that loan size. So this loan size here is $171,500, right? All you're going to do is times that by 0.12 for the 12% interest. That's going to give you your annual amount, and then you're just going to divide that by 12, right? So the monthly interest payment on this loan is $1,715. So I know he wants to be in and out of this quickly. We just walked it. We see that probably by the end of next week, he's going to have it listed. So let's say it takes, worst case, 30 days to sell and then another 30 days to close. Let's put in 3 months, right? So if we have 3 months of holding, his total is $51.45, all right? We know the selling cost here is $7,050. We've got about $23.50 here in additional closing costs, okay? So you kind of see how we're building up a picture of each column and what it's going to cost us. And it's really helpful to actually understand these things too, because when you're making offers and you're explaining why you're coming into your offer to your agent or to your homeowner, it's going to help to be able to break these down. Okay, so closing cost, all right, 2 points. What is 2 points on that loan? 171,500 times 0.02. It's $34.30. Title cost, again, we'll just put in, say, $1,500. Now title fees are set by the state. So you can jump online. There's calculators to show you how much your title policy will be. The title company makes a small percentage from the title insurance, right? They might make a percentage of that. And then they also make their money on the escrow fee, right? So what it costs for both buyer and seller. They make one for the party selling it and they make one for the party buying it. So this title company would make $350 here. They would have made $350 if they would have closed that first transaction, and then they would have made a small percentage of that title insurance. So it's always helpful to know how much the title company is making. So we've got your interest payments. Now you have taxes. That's 3 months. It's probably not going to be a lot. We're just going to throw $500 in there. That's just for your holding taxes when you sell it with, again, with all those prorations. It's going to help to know that. Insurance, generally, most lenders are going to want you to pay that in advance, so they don't have to worry about keeping up, following up on it, making sure you're making monthly payments. So on this one, we're okay with a 6-month policy because we know that it's going to be a quicker transaction. If it's a bigger rehab, we're going to want to get a 12-month policy. But on these insurances, what can happen is if you had a 12-month policy and you sold it within 4 months or 5 months, you can contact the insurance agent, cancel that policy, and you'll get a rebate for that period of time that wasn't used, okay? So check with your lender to see, are they requiring a 6-month or a 12-month insurance policy? Mostly what they're going to do is require builder's risk or vacancy insurance. It's not it's not homeowner's insurance. It's slightly different. Now, if it's in a flood zone, you might need flood insurance. Or if it's occupied when you buy it and you're waiting for that tenant to get out, you might need a landlord policy, right, to cover that tenant in there. So this one was obviously vacant, builder's risk and vacancy, and we only required them 6 months. So let's just put in, I think it was $900 here. So $1,800 to $2,500 would have been a 12-month policy. The appraisal, that was $450, and then the survey, that was similar. I think it was like $480, $500. All right, so this is out of pocket right here. These are your out-of-pocket expenses. This is the loan. So if you're financed up to 100% of that loan, you're only bringing closing cost. Now, if they're only financing a percentage of that purchase price and rehab, well, then you're bringing closing cost and you're bringing anything on top of that leverage amount, right? So we funded the full amount for Chris, so he's only bringing the closing cost. So the closing costs for him are $3,430 plus $1,500 plus $900 plus $450 plus $480. Okay, so roughly $6,760. Now there's a couple other little costs in there we might have missed, but really just kind of for educational purposes, this is a real good way to break it down. His holding costs were $1,715. Oh, that's just interest payment. So $5,145 plus $500 in taxes. $56.45. Okay, so he's out of pocket this, and he's out of pocket this so far, right? Now he is going to do a little bit additional to just the foundation. He decided he's going to do that out of pocket. So we also have $4,400 for the cabinets, and out of pocket. About $3,000, I believe, for the paint. And until we can really get in there and break it down, we'll just throw another $1,000 in there, miscellaneous. Okay. Now his selling cost, he's got his 3%. He's going to pay to whoever brings a buyer to the property. He's got title cost again, another miscellaneous here. So $7,050 plus $2,350 plus $500. Okay. So $9,900. And again, it becomes very easy to calculate these, especially if you can be able to use our calculator. It'll do it all for you. But also in the meantime, you can just pull up Excel or Google Sheets and have your columns and have it broken down. I do have a sheet that anybody can use. If you want to email me at joe@sparklending.com, I'm happy to email you over that spreadsheet that I'm using. Again, it's very similar to this. You're just plugging in a few numbers and it's going to give you, a few ideas of how much cash you're going to get back at closing, and also what was that profit on the deal, right? Because cash back at closing is very different than how much you actually made on that deal. All right, so we have our cost here. He's assuming that he's going to buy it for or sell it for $235. Now he has to pay off his original loan, $171,500. $171,500. All right. So $235 minus $171,500 is $63,500. I'm running out of space here. So $63,500 cash back at closing. But now we got to figure out what were his out of pockets. So he had his first out of pocket, his closing, $67.60. We've also got his holding cost. Let's calculate it with these. So $56.45 plus $3,000 plus $1,000, $9,654. All right, and then we've also got his cost that he's going to sell it. Right now, this would just, you're not bringing money to the table to sell it. It's just going to be reduced from that cash amount here. But just for the sake of this, we're adding it here. But really what it would mean is just less cash back because these are going to be worked into that sales cost. So we have it here, 3% buyers fee. You've got your title fee. You got miscellaneous. So $9,900 here. So what was his profit? So we got 63,500 minus 9,654 minus 6760. Oh, let me do that again. 63,500 minus 6760 minus 96 minus 9,654 minus 9,000. So we got $38,086. Right? So you can see why it's a decent deal, because he wants to get in there, get out as quickly as possible from the time that he buys it to the time that he lists it, probably 3 weeks. Now he could capitalize and make this a full rehab, put $40,000 or $50,000 into it, but you know, you'd have to work out, is it worth it? Is it worth putting that extra money into what you would get back, or is the velocity of capital more important? So he could take that 38 and put it into another deal, or another 2 deals, or another 3 deals, right? It's not out there. It's not you know, sat within that property if it's a 6-month or 7-month flip. So hopefully this is helpful to really understand when you're evaluating a deal. You want to figure out what is your cash out of pocket when you buy it. You know, is that a reasonable amount? Is you going to lower the amount that you have to bring to the table? And then what is your net profit? So, yeah, hopefully this really helped you guys.